The National Electrical Code, or NEC, requires that rigid conduits used with cables have a bushing at the point of entry and exit. This requirement is found in Article 358.40. A conduit shall be provided with an approved insulating bushing or adapter where the wire or cable enters or exits the conduit. There is an exception to this requirement for cables installed in cable trays. According to Article 392.10, cables and cable trays are not required to have bushings at entry or exit points. Conduit shall not be required to be installed as part of the cable tray system when the cables entering or leaving the tray are type MC or are installed in raceways with openings protected by bushings or listed fittings. Consider portable diesel tank where 2-4 conductor number 12 cables are installed in a 2-inch metal conduit that is not part of a cable tray system. The NEC requirement for conduit bushings applies. The argument that the cables are double insulated and therefore do not require bushings is not valid. The NEC does not make any exceptions for double insulated cables. The presence of double insulation does not eliminate the need for physical protection against sharp edges and insulation damage. The portable diesel tank must have plastic bushings installed at the point of entry and exit of the 2-inch metal conduit. Grinding the inside of the conduit to eliminate sharp edges is not an acceptable substitute for installing bushings. Installing bushings will ensure compliance with the NEC and protect the cables from damage. Therefore, it is essential to understand the NEC requirements for conduit bushings, especially when dealing with portable equipment like diesel tanks. Bushings are not just an optional component, they are a necessary safety measure. They safeguard the integrity of the cables and help prevent potential electrical hazards. The purpose of a conduit bushing is primarily to protect the conductors or cables from abrasion and damage as they enter or exit the conduit. The sharp edges of a cut conduit can easily damage the insulation of the wires, leading to short circuits, ground faults, and other electrical problems. Bushings provide a smooth, rounded surface that prevents this damage. They are typically made of plastic or metal and are designed to fit snugly onto the end of the conduit. Now let's talk about the specific NEC articles in a bit more detail. Article 358.40 is very clear: conduit shall be provided with an approved insulating bushing or adapter where the wire or cable enters or exits the conduit. This is a general requirement that applies to all rigid metal conduits. It doesn't matter what type of wire or cable is being used, a bushing is required. The exception for cable trays, as outlined in Article 392.10, is also quite specific. It applies only when the cables are installed in a cable tray system. A cable tray is a support system for cables that is typically used in industrial or commercial settings. If the cables are simply run through a conduit without being part of a cable tray system, the exception does not apply. In the case of the portable diesel tank, the conduit is not part of a cable tray system. It is simply a protective sleeve for the cables as they enter and exit the tank. Therefore, the NEC requirement for conduit bushings applies. Some might argue that grinding the inside of the conduit to eliminate sharp edges is an acceptable substitute for installing bushings. While this may reduce the risk of damage to the cables, it is not an acceptable substitute according to the NEC. The code specifically requires that an approved insulating bushing or adapter be used. Grinding the conduit does not meet this requirement. Additionally, even if the conduit is ground smooth, there is still a risk of the cables being damaged over time due to vibration, movement, or other factors. A bushing provides a more reliable and durable form of protection. It is also important to note that the NEC does not make any exceptions for double insulated cables. While double insulation does provide an extra layer of protection, it does not eliminate the need for physical protection against sharp edges and insulation damage. The NEC is designed to ensure the safety of electrical installations, and it takes a conservative approach. It assumes that all wires and cables are susceptible to damage and requires that appropriate measures be taken to protect them. Therefore, the presence of double insulation does not negate the need for bushings. Now let's consider the implications of not complying with the NEC requirements for conduit bushings. Firstly, it is a code violation, which can result in fines, penalties, and even the shutdown of the equipment. Electrical inspectors are responsible for enforcing the NEC, and they have the authority to require that any code violations be corrected. Secondly, failure to install bushings can increase the risk of electrical hazards. Damaged cables can lead to short circuits, ground faults, and other problems that can cause fires, shocks, and other injuries. Thirdly, it can void the warranty on the equipment. Many manufacturers require that their equipment be installed in accordance with the NEC, and they may void the warranty if it is not. Now let's delve a little deeper into the types of bushings available and their proper installation. Bushings come in various materials, including plastic and metal. Plastic bushings are generally less expensive and easier to install, while metal bushings are more durable and provide better protection against physical damage. The choice of bushing material will depend on the specific application and the environment in which the equipment is being used. For example, if the equipment is exposed to corrosive chemicals, a metal bushing may be a better choice. When installing bushings, it is important to ensure that they are properly sized for the conduit in the cables being used. The bushing should fit snugly onto the end of the conduit without being too tight or too loose. It should also have a smooth, rounded surface that will not damage the cables. It is also important to follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing bushings. Some bushings require the use of special tools or techniques. Failing to follow the instructions can result in improper installation and reduced protection. There are also different types of fittings that can be used instead of bushings. These fittings, such as conduit hubs and connectors, provide a secure and watertight connection between the conduit and the enclosure. They also provide protection against abrasion and damage to the cables. When selecting fittings, it is important to choose ones that are listed and labeled by a recognized testing laboratory such as Underwriters Laboratories or all. This ensures that the fittings have been tested and meet the applicable safety standards. Another important consideration is the type of conduit being used. There are several different types of conduit, including rigid metal conduit, or RMC, intermediate metal conduit, or IMC, electrical metallic tubing, or IMT, and flexible metal conduit, or FMC. Each type of conduit has its own unique properties and is suitable for different applications. RMC is the most durable type of conduit and is typically used in harsh environments. IMC is a lighter weight version of RMC and is suitable for most applications. EMT is a thin-walled conduit that is easy to bend and install. FMC is a flexible conduit that can be used in tight spaces. The type of conduit being used will affect the type of bushings or fittings that are required. For example, RMC and IMC typically require the use of threaded bushings or fittings, while EMT and FMC typically require the use of compression or set screw fittings. Now let's expand on the electrical code itself. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards that covers all aspects of electrical installations. It is updated every 3 years by the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA. The NEC is not law, but it is widely adopted by state and local governments. In many jurisdictions, it is illegal to install electrical equipment that does not comply with the NEC. The NEC is divided into chapters, articles, and sections. Each section covers a specific aspect of electrical installations. For example, Chapter 3 covers wiring methods and materials, Chapter 4 covers equipment for general use, and Chapter 5 covers special occupancies. The NEC is a complex and technical document, and it can be difficult to understand. However, it is essential for anyone who works with electrical equipment to be familiar with the NEC. There are many resources available to help people understand the NEC, including books, websites, and training courses. It is also important to consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer if you have any questions about the NEC. Now, let's bring this back to the topic of portable diesel tanks. Portable diesel tanks are commonly used in a variety of applications, including construction sites, farms, and emergency power systems. They are typically mounted on trailers or skids and can be easily moved from one location to another. Portable diesel tanks are considered to be special occupancies under the NEC, and they are subject to additional requirements. These requirements are designed to ensure the safety of the equipment and the people who use it. For example, portable diesel tanks must be grounded to prevent the buildup of static electricity. They must also be equipped with overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses. The wiring on portable diesel tanks must be protected from physical damage. This is typically accomplished by using rigid metal conduit or other approved wiring methods. The NEC also requires that portable diesel tanks be inspected and tested regularly to ensure that they are in good working condition. The frequency of these inspections will depend on the specific application and the environment in which the equipment is being used. In summary, the NEC requirements for conduit bushings are clear and unambiguous. Bushings are required at the point of entry and exit of all rigid metal conduits, regardless of the type of wire or cable being used. The exception for cable trays applies only when the cables are installed in a cable tray system. Grinding the inside of the conduit is not an acceptable substitute for installing bushings. Failure to comply with the NEC requirements for conduit bushings can result in fines, penalties, and increased risk of electrical hazards. Therefore, it is essential to install bushings in accordance with the NEC. It is important to consult the latest edition of the NEC for the most up-to-date requirements. The electrical codes and standards are constantly evolving to address new technologies and safety concerns. Staying informed about these changes is crucial for ensuring compliance and maintaining a safe electrical installation. If there are any doubts or uncertainties, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrical professional. They can provide expert guidance and ensure that the installation meets all applicable codes and standards. The information provided in this video is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer for specific guidance on your project. Finally, remember that electrical safety is paramount. Always take precautions to protect yourself and others from electrical hazards. Turn off the power before working on electrical equipment and use appropriate personal protective equipment such as gloves and safety glasses. By following these guidelines, one can help to ensure a safe and reliable electrical installation. Remember to always prioritize safety, compliance, and best practices when working with electrical systems.